I took the number 47 bus home from work every night for 2 years. One night in 2018, it did not take me home, and I still do not fully understand what it did take me through. I was working a late shift at the time, finishing around 11 p.m., and the 47 was the only direct route back to my side of the city at that hour. I knew that bus well. Same driver most nights, same handful of tired people heading home after late shifts, same stops in the same order. It was such a routine part of my evening that I stopped paying attention to it the way you stop paying attention to anything you do every single day. That Tuesday in October was cold enough that I was glad to get on. I scanned my card, went to my usual seat about halfway down, put my headphones in, and waited for the 40-minute ride home. Everything was normal for the first 3 stops. The 4th stop was where the bus should have slowed down and pulled in. There were always 1 or 2 people waiting there on late nights. It connected to a residential area, and I had watched people get on and off at that stop hundreds of times. The bus did not slow down. It kept its speed and went straight through without pulling in. I took my headphones out and looked back through the rear window. There were people at that stop, 2 of them standing under the shelter watching the bus go past without stopping. I looked at the driver through the rearview mirror above his seat. He was looking straight ahead, both hands on the wheel, completely relaxed. I told myself he had missed it by mistake and would probably pull over and go back, or at least acknowledge it. He did neither. He kept driving and did not react at all. I checked my phone to see if there was a service notification about stops being skipped. No signal. I looked around the bus and realized for the first time that it was emptier than it should have been at that point in the journey. There were usually 6 or 7 people on by the 4th stop. There were 3, including me, and I had not noticed anyone getting off at the stops before. The 5th stop came and went the same way. No slowing, no pulling in, straight through like the stop was not there. I could see people waiting at that one too. I watched them through the window as we passed, and one of them, an older woman, watched the bus go by with an expression that was not surprise or frustration, just resignation, like she had seen this before. That was the part that stayed with me, not the skipped stops. The way she looked at the bus like she already knew it was not going to stop. I decided to go up and speak to the driver. I stood up and walked to the front and said, "Excuse me," and told him he had skipped the last 2 stops. He did not answer immediately. He kept his eyes on the road for long enough that I thought he had not heard me, and I was about to say it again when he spoke. He said the bus was running an express service tonight. I told him there had been no announcement of that, and there were people waiting at those stops. He said it again, the same words, the same flat tone, without looking at me. The bus was running an express service tonight. I stood there for a moment and then went back to my seat because something about the way he said it made me not want to stand next to him any longer than I had to. The 2 other passengers were sitting separately, and neither of them had reacted to any of this. One was a man in a work jacket staring at his lap, and the other was a younger woman looking out the window. I watched them for a minute, trying to gauge whether they had noticed the skipped stops. Neither of them moved. Neither of them looked at their phones, or at each other, or at the driver. They were sitting completely still in a way that was just slightly too still for 2 people on a moving bus. I looked out the window to track where we were and realized the route had changed. The streets outside were not the streets the 47 was supposed to be on. I knew this route well enough that I could tell we had turned somewhere that was not on the schedule and were now moving through a part of the city I did not recognize from the bus window at night. I pulled the stop request cord. The bell sounded. The bus did not slow down. I pulled it again, same result. The driver did not react, did not look up, kept driving at the same steady speed through streets I did not know. I was trying to stay calm and think practically about what my options were when the bus went under a long underpass and the lights inside flickered and went out for about 4 seconds. When they came back on, the man in the work jacket was gone. His seat was empty. I had not heard him move, had not heard the doors open, had not heard anything. He was just not there anymore. I looked at the woman by the window. She was still there, but she had turned from looking out the window and was now facing forward, and her eyes were closed, and she was sitting with her hands flat on her knees in a way that looked less like someone resting and more like someone who'd been arranged into that position. I stopped pulling the cord and started looking for another way off the bus. The rear emergency exit was at the back. I had never used one before and did not know exactly how they worked, but I had seen the handle on every bus I had ever been on. I walked to the back of the bus and found it and pulled it the way the instructions on the label said to pull it. The door opened. The bus was still moving, but it had slowed slightly as we came through a residential stretch, and the speed was low enough that getting off was not going to kill me. I dropped down onto the road, stumbled, caught myself, and stood there watching the bus continue down the street without stopping or changing speed. I was in a residential area I did not recognize. It took me 40 minutes of walking before I found a main road with enough landmarks to figure out roughly where I was. I was about 4 kilometers from my usual route, in a direction the 47 had no business going. I got home just after 1 in the morning. I sat in my kitchen for a while before I could sleep. The next morning, I looked up the number 47 service to find a complaint number. I wanted to report the driver, the skipped stops, the route deviation, all of it. The 47 did not run on Tuesday nights. According to the schedule, it did not run on Tuesday nights for over a year due to low demand on that route. The last Tuesday service had been discontinued in September 2017. This was October 2018. I have thought about that a reasonable number of times since. The bus I got on, the card I scanned, the driver who told me it was running an express service, the man who disappeared under an underpass, the woman sitting with her hands flat on her knees with her eyes closed. I do not know what the number 47 was running that night. I just know it was not a bus service. And I know that if I had stayed on it, I would not have gotten off at my stop. I do not think I would have gotten off at all. If this one kept you up a little, the playlist on the end screen has more of the same. Everything in one place. Just hit play and enjoy without any interruption.